Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, my questions will just be two-way, where you're going and where you had come from, because we will judge your competence as a Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports based on your performance in your previous position of Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport. So I'd like us to tell us what you found when you went to the Ministry of Roads and Transport, and then what were your key achievements, and what is your legacy, so to speak, so that if we are to assess what Murkomen did during that time, we can be able to judge you by that. And then secondly, I'd like you to now tell us what is your vision when you go to the Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports docket. What's your vision of it? What are the challenges you have? Because you've been listening out, you've been in cabinet, you know what the challenges are, and you can make explanation on that. And as you know, I've been very vocal about that particular ministry. Thank you.
Proceed to answer.
Thank you, Mr.
And we expect
Speaker.
concise and precise responses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start by saying that my greatest success in the Ministry of Roads and Transport is leadership. My first responsibility was to be a leader, to put together a team that works together, to make sure that the ministry and the state agencies are working together seamlessly, Mr. Speaker. Some of the agencies that I found dysfunctional, especially Kenya Airports Authority, with too many of its senior staff acting. I made sure that, Mr. Speaker, we fixed that problem, because that problem was the cause of the other systemic problem within the institution itself. Mr. Speaker, I operated and worked with the managing directors, director generals, the PSS as a team, and at no time, Mr. Speaker, did you hear any squabbles in the ministry. Number two, the second success for me is to be able to lead for the 2 years with integrity and honor, without, Mr. Speaker, bringing my office into any disrepute. And, Mr. Speaker, for the 2 years, no accusation was leveled against me, Mr. Speaker, of any kind on matters of integrity. I carried myself with honor. I abhorred acts of corruption. I managed to lead and remove some of our staff, Mr. Speaker, in some of the agencies, including Kenya Rural Roads Authority, that had become, Mr. Speaker, difficult for my predecessor to remove them because of acts of corruption. And, Mr. Speaker, in terms of delivery, Mr. Speaker, despite the difficult situation we found ourselves with pending bills, we were able to work together as a team with all the roads agencies to deliver about 1,000 kilometers of tarmac roads, both new roads and, Mr. Speaker, the ones that were being reconstructed. All of these roads are in small bits and pieces. You'll find one like Thika Magumu in Kiambu, or the road from Mtwapa to Kilifi, or the road from Kwanjumbu, Mariakani, or Masera Sori in Homa Bay, or the towns of Embu, Kericho, Bungoma, and other towns in the country. Cumulatively, Mr. Speaker, we did about 1,000 kilometers of roads, despite the difficulties we had with the budget. Mr. Speaker, on the part of development funds, I reorganized, Mr. Speaker, and pushed for the contracts that had been delayed for construction of the roads from Isiolo to Wajir to Mandera. And now, Mr. Speaker, all the contracts have been awarded under the African Development Bank and World Bank funding projects, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also led the process of ensuring that, Mr. Speaker, we get funds for our roads. Remember, when I came here, we had a huge pending bill, and it was very difficult for us to solve that issue. His Excellency the President gave me the opportunity to travel to China to work with our development partners, and through my efforts, Mr. Speaker, and collective efforts of the team in government, I managed to raise 37 billion shillings from the China Development Bank to support about 15 roads that, Mr. Speaker, gladly, unfortunately, I didn't live to to see its completion, but they are commencing, Mr. Speaker, from the month of August. Mr. Speaker, beside that, I also pushed for the resources to construct the intelligent traffic system. I promised when I came for vetting here. Now the intelligent traffic system has been advertised. 221 junctions are going to be fixed in the Nairobi city, Mr. Speaker, for that technology. I led the process also of PPPs. For the road from Mombasa to Nairobi, the American government, American investor, Mr. Speaker, has made a proposal, and that proposal is ongoing because we have facilitated them. Mr. Speaker, we had a problem with the Rironi Mau Summit, one of the most popular cases. There was an existing contract that I took the a step of courage, Mr. Speaker, to mutually terminate. And Mr. Speaker, we should be able, as the President promised, also to advertise after September when the mutual termination period is over, so that we get a contractor by January next year. Mr. Speaker, in the road sector also, I'd like to say that, Mr. Speaker, we have done a commendable job to raise resources. My last act in that office, Mr. Speaker, was to make sure that we get resources for maintaining our roads. When I came to Parliament several times, because these questions were asked, I appraised the country that we have what we call orphaned roads. And these roads are, especially in Kenya, rural roads, and they needed significant resources. Our demand per year for maintaining the roads is 150 billion, Mr. Speaker, yet we only raised 84 billion. This year, I took the significant step, did the public participation, and eventually we were able to increase the road maintenance levy by 7 shillings, working together with the petroleum sector to make sure that that increase did not make the cost of petroleum higher than it is. If it is something significant I'm leaving back in this ministry for the benefit of the honorable members who are here, we shall be having now constituency roads management having at least 100 million shillings in every constituency, up from 62 million in the last financial year. And we should be able to fix the problems that we have in our roads. That needed leadership, needed boldness, Mr. Speaker, to make that significant contribution. Mr. Speaker, it wasn't just the road sector that I superintended upon. There was also the transport sector. We did a lot in the port. Mr. Speaker, we were able to increase the efficiency of the port by 12%. We handled 1.6 million TEUs of cargo, up from 1.4. And this year, Mr. Speaker, we are going to handle 2 million TEUs. In also that sector, Mr. Speaker, we have increased investment, especially in Lake Victoria. Now the oil transport that I saw Honorable Wandai speaking about, now fuel is being transported across Lake Victoria. You don't need to burden the roads across to Uganda. Mr. Speaker, we are also building piers in Kisumu and also getting a ferry from Fangano Island. Some of those investments, Mr. Speaker, were based on the things we did. In the Lapsset corridor, for the first time, the Lamu port was able to handle significant cargo, 60 million metric tons of fertilizer destined towards Ethiopia, based on our diplomatic work within the Lapsset corridor. Now Lapsset corridor is functioning. The road from Lamu to Ijara, Mr. Speaker, which was a Maram road, we made sure that we fixed that problem. Now a tarmac road is being constructed, it's on the way. We have up to February next year to make sure that that tarmac road is delivered to Ijara, and the road from Ijara to Isiolo is also ongoing, Mr. Speaker. I look forward within next year that the Lapsset corridor will be completed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also did some work at the airport. You remember that when I arrived, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport was a place of shame. All the airports do not have a maintenance policy. Mr. Speaker, after fixing the human resource, we made sure also we fix the maintenance policy. Now we've been able to fix Jomo Kenyatta International Airport drainage system. We've also been dealt with the roofing, and Mr. Speaker, there is a progress in that direction. We've also fixed, Mr. Speaker, many of the other airports. There was a lighting problem in Eldoret. Wilson Airport, for many of us who are here who've used the Wilson Airport, you know that it's full of potholes and bumps, Mr. Speaker. Now we have awarded the contract to make sure that the aprons and the runway is redone afresh, because Wilson Airport is among the busiest airports in the continent, Mr. Speaker. Even as we did that, we completed also contracts that were pending for our airstrips in Anyuki, airstrip in Nakuru now are ongoing. We finished the Matulo airstrip, Mr. Speaker. We opened new routes for airlines to go to Kabundo in Homa Bay. We did in Migori Migori, Mr. Speaker. We did also new route to Kakamega. Mr. Speaker, now our airspace is booming. I opened doors, Mr. Speaker, for new airlines. We have Fly Dubai now flying to Mombasa. Air Indigo is now flying directly from India to Nairobi. And one of my last also responsibilities was to grant Etihad a flight to come back to Nairobi. All this is done balancing, Mr. Speaker, with the interests of the Kenya, Mr. Speaker, Kenya Airways. Even that, Mr. Speaker, is just a tip of the things we have succeeded to do. Let me just say the last one, Mr. Speaker, is the. You know, I left the minister abruptly, so this is an opportunity to share. And I just in 2 more minutes, Mr. Speaker, is to say that in the railway sector, we've done a very good job to revamp the commuter rail system in the city of Nairobi, increasing the 10 stations in the city. We significantly pushed the Kumi program of the World Bank, which will give us 60 billion shillings to revamp the commuter rail system in the city. And Mr. Speaker, that will also lead to increasing the stations and therefore significantly reduce climate impact in the city and pollution, because we will be using mass transit of the railway. Mr. Speaker, we have done so also by connecting Mombasa to Miritini itself, and we are doing a construction of Ruto, Mr. Speaker, all the way to Ngong and hopefully then to Rongai, so that then we can significantly move our people using commuter rail. I was in the process of getting funding, working together with private sector and Ugandan government to make sure that we extend the railway from Naivasha to Kampala. I believe that my successor, the person who comes after me, my successor, Mr. Speaker, will continue from where we left insofar as that is concerned. There are so many other things we've done in the transport sector, in the Namata. All these will be now factors of history, and we shall have the time to be able to share. So I just want to say this, Mr. Speaker, that even as we accuse the government, and there is a general accusation across board that we've not done the communication, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, no matter how much we try to publicize these great things we have done, it is trounced by criticism and predetermined programming, Mr. Speaker, to label certain people as a failure. I have worked passionately, committed to deliver my work, working sometimes up to midnight, Mr. Speaker, and this is a job I look back and say the last 2 years have been exciting for me, and I look forward to also taking the same energy and vigor to the next ministry. Mr. Speaker, the vision I have for the young people of this republic, there are many people who have asked themselves that, why Murkomen? Why is he being put here? I believe that, Mr. Speaker, the president carefully chose me because of my energy, my commitment, my passion, and my history with young people. Mr. Speaker, I do a lot of mentorship across the country, even when I was in the Ministry of Roads and Transport. Mr. Speaker, I ran a tournament, a tournament, Mr. Speaker, that runs in about 5 counties, and we were moving to the 6th county in the Kerio Valley region, which uses sports, and for that reason, it was football last year, to bring warring communities together, the Pokots, the Marakwets, the Turkana, the Samburus, Mr. Speaker, the people of Tugen, to bring them together to play together. And last year, as a result of that tournament, for the first time, we had an opportunity. Some leaders from Turkana got the first time to be in Kapenguria when we were playing football, and I was really surprised. And that way, sports, Mr. Speaker, is also one way of bringing people together. I have a passion for the young people, and I believe that that passion is going to be translated to action, Mr. Speaker, once I assume office. And that passion is to sort the problems that are bedeviling our young people. The problem of unemployment, Mr. Speaker. The problem of our sports sector, the way it's mismanaged, Mr. Speaker. And many other issues that I hope we will delve into.
That will
because my teacher, Honorable Gladys Boshole, has asked a very wide question. If I'm left to answer, Mr. Speaker,
I want to narrow you down now
yes, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The much you have said and said it well. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Going forward now, we answer questions